Hello, lovies. Has anybody else had an especially challenging week this week? Um, Gosh, whether you have had an awful week or an excellent one, I am so glad that you joined me today. Um, I have a very special recipe that I'm excited to share with you all. I've actually been working on it for several weeks now. When I first started this channel, um, I was talking with one of my best friends, and she's amazing. I've known her for quite literally half of my life now, um, and she's amazing. Um, but when I was talking with her about my idea for starting this channel, she was very excited, and right off the bat, first day, she asked me to do some keto recipes because she is on a keto diet. Um, I am not familiar with keto cooking or baking. I do know that it's low carb and no sugar, um, but that was about the extent of my knowledge going into it. Um, as it turns out, keto utilizes a lot of almond flour and almond milk, and I actually have tree nut allergies. So um, I initially had tried to recruit some some taste testers to taste the recipes that I was trying to formulate along the way, because I wouldn't be able to test them myself. But then it got me thinking about, um, in my family, I know there are a lot of like special dietary restrictions, whether for medical reasons or for personal preference. Um, and so I know that it can be a challenge sometimes finding recipes that fit everybody's needs. Um, but for some reason, I decided I was going to take on that challenge. Um, I know that it can be very special when everybody is allowed to share the same meal or the same dessert or, um, whatever it may be. So for me, that's very important for family and friends to be able to share the same thing, regardless of what our personal nutrition plans are. So that was my inspiration for today's post. It also helps that her birthday is coming up very soon. Um, and so naturally, I turned to cake. And that's what we're doing today. One of her favorite cakes is called a fruit basket cake, um, which I actually was not familiar with until I spoke with her about creating a recipe for this video. So this is kind of my own take on it. I looked up a couple recipes online for reference to try and get some ideas of how to do it and what ingredients typically go into it. But we're going to be doing berries today. The most common I saw was strawberry and banana, but we're going to be doing berries today. They're healthy for you. They're really good for you. They taste good. They look pretty. And it is keto friendly, above all the other fruits. So today's recipe is actually not only keto friendly, but is top 9 allergy friendly. For those of you who want or need to know that, it's very important for my family. Um, so that's what we're doing today. Are you ready? All right, so I have actually done a little bit of prep work already. This is a pretty simple recipe. It's pretty basic. The first thing we're going to do is I have some coconut flour, and I did 1 cup of coconut flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And what we're doing right now is we're just going to sift that together. And what this is going to do, it's going to get out any clumps, and it's going to help mix it a little bit. But the main reason is just to get out any big chunks so that we have a smooth batter when we're mixing it. Coconut flour can be pretty dry. If you've ever worked with it, you know that it can be pretty dry. So we want to make sure that we're not getting any big clumps of that flour in there, or it kind of ruins the cake. So that's all the dry ingredients we're going to use. For the wet ingredients, we're going to start with 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then I actually already went ahead and I got the zest and juice of 2 lemons. You don't have to do the zest. I personally like it. I think it looks pretty in the cake, and I think just the taste gives it a little something extra. So we have that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do 3/4 of a cup of a cup for cup measure of sugar substitute. Any brand you want, as long as it is a cup for cup measure. So we have 3/4 cup of that. And then I like to give this a mix just so it doesn't clump together. There we go. Nice and smooth. And then to this, we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of coconut milk. So, pretty simple. And that's all the ingredients, guys. Very easy. So we're just going to give this a little stir. Try to get these evenly incorporated. There we go. And it might look a little like it's not quite working. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but it's going to work really well in the recipe once it's baked. So then from here, we're going to add the dry ingredients and just mix it up until it's all evenly incorporated. One thing about working with coconut flour is you do kind of have to mix it quickly once it's in there, because it soaks up that moisture so quickly. You have to make sure that you're really mixing it around so you don't get those clumps in there. So you don't have to rush it, but do keep moving so that you don't get any big chunks in there. So as you can see, this is not a very wet batter, but it is holding together, and that's what we want, is something that will hold together, that isn't dry and crumbly, but it's not wet. And it's going to bake up beautifully. So this recipe is enough to fill an 8 or 9 inch round pan, but I am actually going to use little 6-inch pans, just because I like the layers. I think the layers are really cute. These are actually really great pans. They're non-stick, so I trust them to let the cake out. If you do not have good pans, you can use some parchment. And a little trick I learned for round pans with parchment is that you can just fold it, find the center-ish, and just kind of measure to the end. And then if you some scissors, you can cut off these little ends and just kind of cut these little things along the edges. and it'll fit right in there, just like that. So if you want or need, you can do that with some parchment. Again, I trust my pans to let the cake out, so I'm just going to leave it how it is. And then we're going to go ahead and put the batter. You can see it is not pouring. You just have to kind of let it go in there. And then it's wet enough that we're going to be able to press it together. Just like that. You don't want to press it hard because you do want your cake to be a little fluffy. We don't want it very dense. But if you just press it together a little bit, it'll hold together so that your cake will hold together when you take it out. Coming together, just like that. So if you're using the bigger pan, then we're going to bake that for about 20-25 minutes at 350 degrees. If you're using these cute little small pans like me, it's only going to take about 10 to 15 minutes. The top will brown maybe a little bit, but usually it doesn't brown a lot. It'll kind of brown around the edges, which is nice. And so that's a pretty clear indicator that it's done. But it won't brown a lot on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and stick these in the oven, and then we'll come right back to talk about the frosting. All right, guys, so for the frosting, the first thing we're going to do is, I already went ahead and did this, but we're going to dissolve 1 package of unflavored gelatin. I don't even know if you can see that. In 2 tablespoons of cold water. And so you're going to let it sit for about 10 minutes, and this is what it's going to look like. It's just going to be this congealed thing. And from here, I'm going to stick this in the microwave for like 5 to 10 seconds, just enough to dissolve that, so that we're working with a liquid. So that's just going to take a quick second. So 5 seconds wasn't enough. I'm going to go ahead and do 10. And you can see now that that is a liquid now, and that is perfect to make this frosting. So we're doing a whipped coconut cream frosting for this cake, and coconut milk, although it really wants to hold up, it doesn't really hold up that well. So that's why we're adding the gelatin, just to kind of stabilize it and help it create those firm peaks where we would otherwise just have a really kind of droopy cream, and we don't want that because we want it to hold up, hold its structure for this cake. So we're going to start with a teaspoon of vanilla, and then we're going to do a 1/4 cup of the sugar substitute. And then we're going to do a whole can of coconut cream. Some people like to scoop out just the really thick, fatty part of the cream. But since I am using this gelatin, I actually am able to use the whole can, even with the kind of watered down part, because that gelatin is going to help stabilize it. And I really don't like to waste any of this. So I go ahead and use the whole can. And then we're just going to whip this together until we get some kind of soft peaks. And it helps a lot if you're able to stick the can of coconut milk in the fridge, at least for one day, it helps it kind of hold together a little bit better. So I'm going to whip this up and then I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. So you can see now that the cream is a lot fluffier, a little bit thicker. It's still kind of coming down in ribbons. But now I'm going to pour in the gelatin and just kind of slowly stream it in while I'm beating it. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off the camera because I don't know if you know this, but hand beaters are really loud. So I'm going to turn off the camera, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly pour this in while continuing to beat it until it's well incorporated, and that should help it firm up and hold its peaks a little bit. Alrighty guys, so this is after adding the gelatin. You can see that it's not very firm, but it is a lot thicker now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover this and I'm going to stick it in the fridge for a little bit to kind of get happy there and firm up so that we can use it as a frosting. And it's actually perfect timing for pulling the cakes out of the oven. And I want you guys to see what that's going to look like. Because you can see that it's very brown around the edges and only a very little bit on top. But I promise you it is cooked all the way through. So you want to just go ahead and let these cool, I'd say probably for about 5 minutes or so before you turn them out onto a cooling rack, and then let them cool completely before you ice them. So I'm going to go ahead and put these on a cooling rack to cool off a little bit, and I'm going to put the icing or the frosting in the fridge to set up just a little bit, and I'll see you guys in a second. All right guys, I think we're ready to assemble the cake. Look at that thick whipped cream. All right, so I'm going to take our first layer of the cake, and we're going to do a nice happy helping of this cream. The longer you're able to let the cream sit in the fridge, the thicker it'll be and a lot easier to handle. Mine is still a little bit runny, but that's okay. And then you can use fresh berries. I actually use frozen berries because sometimes this time of year it's a little bit difficult to find fresh berries. They're not as readily available. But we're just going to go ahead and drop a couple of these right on there. And because I'm doing the layers, I'm not going to do it all the way to the edge because sometimes when you put that other layer on it, it'll kind of squish out a little. You don't want that. So I'm just going to kind of put it mostly in there. So we got that. And then we're going to go ahead and stick that second layer right on top. And then just go ahead and put more of that cream all around it now. So cute. I'm so excited. So, got my ice machine going in the back. I'm excited about this cake. It was very difficult to create this recipe. Like I said, it took me a couple of weeks, a lot of trial and error, trying to work with a specific limited amount of ingredients. Just trying to find the right quantities and what I could add or take away that would affect the texture and the taste of the cake. Took quite a few tries. All right. That's good. But I am happy. I think maybe it'll take a few more tweaks to really perfect the recipe, but I'm happy with how it turned out. I really am. And I'm excited to share it with you guys, because I know a lot of you out there have some dietary restrictions that you have to work around, and sometimes it can be hard to find a good recipe, especially one that like everyone in the family can share and enjoy together. So obviously you can get more fancy with the decorating. I'm just kind of trying to get the berries on there right now. I just like an even distribution of the flavor, so I'm just trying to get them all on there. I don't know if I already mentioned this or not, but if you're going to use frozen berries, sorry guys, just grabbing a fork. If you're going to use frozen berries, just go ahead and give them a rinse in cold water to defrost them, but that way it's not too harsh. You know, some people will microwave them, and I don't like to do that. I like to keep as much of the flavor and juice in there as possible. So I just kind of rinse them under cold water a little bit, and that's enough to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and taste this cake. I'm really excited. Like I said, it's been a long week. I don't know if anyone else has been feeling that. I know I'm kind of having some lulls and awkwardness in this video. I had tried actually to record this video the other day. There was an interruption, and so it kind of threw me off, and it was really important to me to get this video out there. So I'm trying again, but that's why there's kind of some awkward lulls. So you can see it's kind of crumbly. It's because I'm rushing making it. It holds together pretty well, but it is a little bit crumbly. But I'm going to go ahead and taste this. So I am actually really happy with this recipe, especially for how much it's working around. On its own, the cake, I did taste the cake on its own, and it's not like a great standalone. But when you put it with the cream, and especially with the berries, it all works really well together, because the cream like balances out that like kind of otherwise dry, bland texture of the cake. And then the cream, which would be, I think, otherwise for me at least, a little too sweet on its own, it works well with the cake. And then the berries just like give it a nice pop of flavor. And then you get that lemon coming through on the cake too, which is really nice. I like it a lot. If you guys try it out, let me know what you think. I'm definitely wanting to work on it a little bit more. I'm happy with it how it is, but I think it could be better. So if you try it out, let me know what you think. Let me know any improvements or suggestions that you have. I'd love to really refine this recipe and get it in a good place, where I feel really confident about it. But that's it. I wanted to share this with you guys. I've been thinking a lot this week, especially about, you know, I have a lot of loved ones who don't live close by. So sometimes life gets busy, and, you know, it's really hard, even though there are all these things to help us keep connected and help us, it's like so readily available for us to connect with each other. I think a lot of people kind of get so used to that we're not really utilizing that to its full potential. And in that respect, people are kind of losing touch with each other. Um, and so it was important for me to make this cake um, as a way of showing somebody who is very dear to my heart um, that I think of her and that I love her. And even though we can't be close, um, there's something special that I wanted to share with her, something that is very much from my heart to hers, um, just to remind her that she is loved. Um, so I encourage you guys, if you're looking for a new cake recipe, definitely try this out. Share it with anyone who you think might appreciate it, who might have those special dietary restrictions or just needs a good coconut cake recipe. It's good. It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't taste like a cake that is working around a lot of allergies or dietary restrictions. To me, it just tastes like a good coconut, like lemon and berry cake. It's really good. Um, and whether or not you try the recipe, I encourage you guys, um, sometime this week, go ahead and find a way to reach out to somebody that you love and just let them know that you're thinking of them and that you think they're special. Um, but that's all I have for you guys this week. And I hope to see you again next week. Thanks for joining me. And I love you all. And I hope you have a great week.